Welcome, everyone. I'm Valeria Martinez, an MBA student here at Stanford, and I'm incredibly excited to be introducing our next panel, titled Who's Building Momentum? The conversation for the next 45 minutes will be focused on learning more about the organizations that are actively changing the playing field for historically underrepresented founders. And let me tell you, you're in for a real treat with the panelists we've got lined up. In just a second, I'll hand it over to Fern Mendelbaum, our moderator for the session. Fern is a managing director at Emerson Collective and a lecturer here at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. Fern is an investor, a founder, a mentor, and an incredible champion of diversity. So Fern, I'll hand it off to you.
So wonderful to be here today, and I am deeply honored to be on this panel with all of you. First, would be great if you could introduce yourselves. Tell us briefly about your distance traveled and share with us a little bit about your organization, the work it's doing to build momentum, to expand diversity in entrepreneurship, or as I like to refer to it, increase the number of founders and investors from HUGs, historically underestimated groups. Mandela, can you kick us off and also explain the concept of distance traveled?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Fern, and Stanford Business School. I am so excited to be on a panel with people I know and I admire so much. So hey, Jared, hey, Shamara. I am currently the CEO and founder of a company called Founder Gym. We're an online training center that specifically focuses on helping historically underrepresented groups raise venture capital. And if you know anything about the venture capital landscape, basically 11% of venture capital goes to women, less than 3% goes to Latinx founders, less than 2% goes to Black founders, less than 1% goes to Black women founders. So we have a lot of work to do. And Founder Gym is our attempt at trying to close that funding gap via training program using some of the best investors and funded founders out there, including Jared Tingle from Harlem Capital. So distance traveled, my journey starts, I'm the daughter of two civil rights attorneys and social justice advocates. My name is Mandela after Nelson Mandela. So that tells you a lot probably about the household I grew up in, the conversations around the dinner table. I'm also an athlete. I played in the Olympic development program. I was the captain of the Division I soccer team, and I was also a teacher prior to becoming an entrepreneur. So Founder Gym really is a manifestation of all those lived experiences I've had and coupled together with my network to really try to provide a solution. So in summary, distance traveled is the difference between looking at someone's resume, CV, their LinkedIn, and just accounting for all of the things they've accomplished. Whereas distance traveled is where did they start? And what is every single thing they've had to overcome just to get in the door right now and to be able to have those things on their resume. So that's the main difference.
Thank you so much. Jared, can we hear a little bit about your story?
Sure. I'm really happy to be here. I know Mandela well. I love Shamara. So great to be in good company on this panel and good to meet you as well, Fern. I'm Jared. I grew up in New Jersey. I'm a co-founder of Harlem Capital. We are an early stage VC fund, primarily doing seed stage investments, focused on investing in women and people of color. So our first fund is $40 million. We've done 23 investments. We invest all across the country. We like to lead rounds, like to participate. But we really have a mission of investing in 1,000 diverse entrepreneurs over the next 20 years. It's been an incredible journey. And outside of investing, we also want to create on-ramps and pathways for more diverse candidates, Black, brown folks getting into VC. So we've had 58 interns so far over 2.5 years. 17 of those people have ended up either in VC or private equity. 3 of them are with us. So we're trying to walk the walk as well as just elevate the brand and build the ecosystem for diverse founders.
Thank you so much. And Shamara, can you share a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Shamara Mejia Hernandez. I'm a founding partner of Chingona Ventures. Chingona means badass woman in Spanish, and I'm investing in badass founders at the earliest stages. As my career, my life started in Mexico. I'm an immigrant to this country. I grew up in a dual language, multicultural, low income household. So that's the lens I've always brought to my investing style. I'm also a mom to a 2-year-old. So I have that perspective as well as a millennial mom. But my background is an engineer by training. I worked at Goldman Sachs for nearly a decade, so I was on the public side. And then after business school, I moved to the private side. I started my fund because I saw a huge need in how funding got to founders, the experience that they had. Many times, as the numbers show, there is not the other side, a perspective on the other side of the table that can understand these markets, that has experienced this markets. There's a lot of bias. There's a lot of network-based investing. And so I launched my fund for that reason, to invest in these founders that were often overlooked in industries that were massively growing. And I do invest also in non-diverse teams, but I work to get the first woman or minority on the team, as well as around the cap table. So Fund 1 launched in April of 2019. I have made also 23 investments, and now we're building Fund 2 as well.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, a big part of today is sharing organizations, people doing this incredible work. So we're hoping you could share perhaps who else is doing impactful work in this area. What organizations do you get really excited about in terms of changing the playing field for founders from Hugs? Let's go with the same order, if you don't mind. Mandela, can you kick us off?
Yeah, I'll go for, I go back to the first people who bet on me. So back in 2012, again, we talk about distance traveled. I never took a business class, never took a finance class, never took a technology class prior to building a VC-backed tech startup. I wasn't aware of Silicon Valley aside from the Facebook movie. I don't remember what it's called, a Social Network, right? Like that was my first introduction to this whole other world. And that was pure entertainment, right? I really didn't understand the game. And so when I think about who bet on me back in 2012, and I was one of the first Black women to raise venture capital from Silicon Valley investors, that was Kapor Capital. So Kapor Capital is an investment fund originally based in San Francisco, now based in Oakland, California, but they have a really unique thesis that is not just focused on funding underrepresented founders, but focused on funding companies that close gaps of access and opportunity for low-income communities of color in the United States, which if you look at the correlation of who those are, well, those oftentimes are populations of people of color. And who cares about building solutions for those populations? Oftentimes people who've lived those problems. And so by natural consequence, a large portion of their portfolio, over 60% of their portfolio, is underrepresented founders. And so that's definitely a group I would want to shout out. And then I also want to shout out Catherine Finney. I was in her very first cohort. She's the founder of an organization called Digital Undivided, and they've done some pioneering research specifically around Black women founders. And they are the ones who are reporting out and tracking how many Black women have raised $1 million or more. It's called a Project Diane report. And what it surfaced in just December 2020 is only 93 Black women in all of history, in all of human existence, have ever raised $1 million or more in venture capital, right? So when you see these big numbers being thrown out there, you really have to take into context, where is that money going and who is it going to? So those are two organizations I would shout out.
Oh, thank you so much. Jared, how about you?
That's great. Well, we love the work Mandela does. So we met her first in 2017. I've been so impressed. And it's interesting she mentioned that report because I believe Founder Gym has backed or helped the most Black women who raised $1 million get off the ground. So props to you for making that happen. We've invested in 3 out of the fund and 2 out of our angel syndicate. So we've definitely been a part of that movement. So really respect what you're doing. I do think we need more at the earliest stages. And I think that's one gap. I think that's another question you have, that we need more support. So I'll shout out them. I'll shout out Project Diane as well with Digital Undivided. Techstars has been great as well. They're not just focused on diversity, but their cohorts are very diverse. We love Michael, we love YC, but Techstars has been great and more focused on getting diverse talent in. And so they've been amazing. I think 6 or 7 of our portfolio companies have came from Techstars. On the VC side, we love Mac VC. Marlon's done a great job of supporting diverse founders. but also putting out research and thought leadership that shed good light on some things that no one else had, using his relationship with Kaufman Fellows. And the last is 645 Ventures, Namni and Aaron. They don't have diversity in their strategy, but they're two diverse GPs. And they've been very friendly, great mentors, and kind of opened the door for people to start raising bigger funds. Like, we were looking up to them when we were getting off the ground, and because of the threshold they're setting, we know that we can do that or something close to it.
Oh, thank you. And Shamara.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm inspired by Mandela and Jared, right, and what they're doing, and being able to change how the ecosystem looks. You know, for me, my first check into my fund was the chief innovation officer of the Illinois State Treasurer's office, and this was 2 years ago. This was an institution backing me. This was before anybody kind of was doing this, and they fought for me and they took a chance on me. And with that, I would not have gotten my fund off the ground. And so that's what I try to do for founders is then be their first check-in, be a significant check, lead the round, help catalyze the round. And that makes a world of difference into a founder or first-time GP. There's so many more now LPs doing this. So PayPal Ventures, which I know Jared got an investment from as well, they've been instrumental. I just talked to my contact there this morning, and they were the first check into fund two, and they helped catalyze and start the fundraising there. So props to all the first checkers out there that don't need anybody else to come in. But on the VC side, the one person that many of us know is Charles Hudson from Precursor. He is just been an incredible human being. First of all, he was doing the pre-seed stuff, Soul GP, before anybody else. He's basically helped all of us, come in and LPs be comfortable with Soul GPs, or more comfortable. And so his strategy was different from the beginning. So I look up to him, and I reach out to him, and he's always available. And then there's other organizations now that are helping emerging managers get off the ground, like Operator, Black VC, Latinx VC. So very involved there as well.
I props to all these people, organizations. I love that we have so many that we're, calling them out, and that you're not like just repeating what each other is saying. I love this, and we're only scratching the surface, frankly. When we think about the organizations we've just talked about, they embody a range of strategies for leveling the playing field, whether it's funding, accelerators, education, increasing visibility of companies with quote unquote non-traditional founders. Though I'm like, what is a traditional founder? How do you think about these different approaches, right? They each are meant to, Mandela, I think you mentioned, fill a gap. Are one of these gaps more critical than the other? Are there other strategies for helping founders from hugs beyond those that I mentioned? Like, take this question in any direction you want, and don't, for each of you answering it, do not feel like you need to follow the way the other person asked. And so Mandela, you kick us off in such a great way. Let's keep with the same order.
Okay. Here, I'm going to actually pass it over to one of my panelists, if that's okay, because I would love to hear where they take it first. And then I know what I'm going to say.
All right. All right.
So Jared, how about you go first?
All right, cool.
Yeah, we're mostly focused on the funding gap. I think there's a lot of different ways to help founders get off the ground. Access to capital is the largest from our point of view. I mean, that's the historical challenge that we've had. So I actually started in private equity. I was working at a Black-owned private equity firm, a great firm called ICV Partners, very diverse GPs. And then our third parties, our lawyers and our accountants would be, mostly Black or Latino. The challenge was none of the portfolio companies we've invested in had diverse leadership. We put in a few, but no diverse CEOs. We had one woman CEO. And I'm like, private equity is a massive asset class. People are creating wealth for them and their families, and we're not participating at all at a meaningful level from the company operation perspective. And when we thought about it, it's like, hey, we love private equity. Could we even do a model where we back diverse founders? The answer is no, because they haven't received enough capital to get to that stage in mass. So we thought we had to go all the way upstream to early stage and see what we could do there. And what we found from our network, so we went to decent schools, did all the diversity programs like Management Leadership for Tomorrow or Sponsor for Educational Opportunity or Twigo and all those. And we're like, hey, we know tons of smart, capable people that could start great companies, that could be investors, but the pathways haven't been there, particularly not the access to capital. And if you look at even just getting started, you think about the wealth gap, the average white family has 10x more wealth than the average Black family. There's so many cascading things that make it tough. So we think that's the primary issue. The talent's there, the pathways are there. It's more just about the capital. One thing we have realized as we've gotten more though into VC is that information and capital go the same way. And we fundamentally do not believe in meritocracy at Harlem Capital. If you look at the most successful people and people that aren't successful, a lot of it is serendipity, it's luck, it's sponsorship, and it's people taking bets on them early. And even our lives, like we're not 10x smarter, we don't have a better idea than everyone. We just got people to support us. And as a result, we think that so much information is closely held. And if people just had, again, access and, people shared as much information as they do with the homogenous founders that have been receiving capital, we could all be in a world that's a lot more fair and where capital is distributed a lot more like parity. So access to capital is definitely the thing that we're most focused on at Harlem Capital.
Shamara, you want to take it next? I know Mandela's like, I'm going to put her last from now on. So.
Yeah, no, happy to. I mean, Jared touched on it. Access to capital it starts at birth, right? It starts from when you're born and your access to education, your access to network, your access to even just knowing that there's an opportunity. I was literally going to be a hairstylist. You can't tell by my hair today because I'm a little crazy, but I was going to be a hairstylist, and that's all I knew. I didn't have anybody in my life that was in finance or anything like that. And I happened to be good at numbers. And one of my teachers said, you should go into numbers. You should go into engineering. I said, how hard can it be? And I went into engineering. And then Goldman Sachs was at a conference and I was like, what do you guys do? I have no idea. And they're like, come join us, right? And so to Jared's points, it was somebody bringing me up, someone saying, hey, you have this thing. I know you don't know anybody that looks like you that has this thing, but why don't you come join us? And so for me, it starts there, and it's as a VC, you need to focus right on the cap, on the funding gap, but I'm trying to think about it from where they come from, who's in their network, who's not in their network, how they experience us, how they get access to us. I have people from Nebraska, Oregon, New Mexico, women in these non-tech hubs reaching out and saying, hey, I built this thing. No one else around me is building it, but I saw a need in the market. They oftentimes have better unit economics. They've raised nothing and they have actual revenue, real revenue. And they're just like, I just need funding to actually grow. And so for me, taking it from that perspective and saying, to your point, distance traveled, where are they? Where have they come from? Where are they at today? Imagine what $1 million would do to their business when they've been able to do, this much with nothing raised. And so that's the first piece of it. And then the second piece is on this infrastructure change. So I don't believe that we're going to make change by just writing a check, by just saying, okay, you're a woman, great, we invested in you. It's got to, and this is why I invest kind of a little bit more broadly, is saying, how does the cap table look, right? How does your pay structure look internally? Who's getting what equity? I've been in so many board meetings where women are on there and they're getting paid the least with zero equity. And they have more experience than many of the other team members. So I take board seats. I want to have a voice at the table for these women. And then the last thing is on the cap table side, right? Like this, I believe that bringing in diverse perspectives to your cap table, even if you have non-diverse teams, is going to bring different perspectives. So it's on all different sides, but it starts at birth. And then we have to think about it more from an infrastructure perspective.
Thank you. And Mandela.
Yes. So I co-sign everything that was shared. I think that one thing to make really clear is that my entire job and that I have chosen and signed up for and left a very cushiony VC role for is to work with in the trenches every single day underrepresented founders who come from a diverse set of backgrounds and actually work with them day in and day out to help close these gaps. So I want to preface my comment with that level of expertise and experience in this particular area is that one of the biggest issues and gaps to close that I don't think is mentioned is just the awareness of what this wealth creation vehicle is. There is a huge financial literacy gap in this country. We all hear about the Black wealth gap, the white, right, the pay gap with genders, all of this stuff, but it is very much very much impacting what's happening in this private equity space, right? The public is not educated on how to, most of the public, and I wasn't, is not educated on how to participate in the public markets, right? As investors going on Robinhood and buying shares of public companies, let alone understanding the game of private companies and getting on the cap table, right? Whether you get on the cap table as a founder, as an early employee, as an advisor, as an investor, as a board member, there's many ways to create wealth here. But the fact is people don't even know that this game exists. And I think one of the things that's been shifting that is as more celebrities have been playing this game and being exposed for their winnings, like just last week, Nas, right? Like, I don't even know how much, 100x his money, his investment in Coinbase. And then prior to that, right, Dre selling his company to Apple, Beats by Dre. And then we have Troy Carter, the manager of Lady Gaga and John Legend, right, making buku bucks as an early investor in Lyft and Uber. Then we go to Ashton Kutcher. But I think as these stories has come out into the mainstream, people are starting to perk up like over the fence, like what's going on over there? There's a lot of money being made. And I think, again, groups where historically they've been left out of this opportunity where maybe they've only seen examples in their family of building a small business, building a corner shop, going to play sports or being a musician, right? Those are the avenues of wealth. And this is an avenue of wealth. And I think one of the biggest opportunities still is education and awareness about what this even is. And I oftentimes say, add more zeros to your dream. Because there's a lot of people who have a lot of experience as small business owners, as lifestyle business owners. And if they understood that many of the same principles you are applying to make your small business successful can be applied to make a venture-backed company successful, they may want to play in this bigger league, right? That has a bigger exit opportunity, but they just aren't aware of it. So that's one, I think that's one of the biggest things I will just say. And it's a language. We teach people how to speak VC. It's very much its own language. LTV, CAC, right? MRR, like it's a language. And if people don't know how to speak that, you also miss out on the opportunity to get the capital. Because as Jarrett was mentioning, as more underrepresented investors come about with their own funds, they're able to deploy that capital. But if the underrepresented founders aren't ready to pitch their companies in a way that aligns to the investor's investment thesis, it's still not going to match up. Right. So it's both sides working in tandem to get this gap closed.
Mandela, I love those points. You hit on so many good ones. And we thought we were well networked, and it's so hard to get this information. Like, there's not a lot of publicly available resources. Like, yes, you can go in trenches on Twitter or on podcasts, but there's no efficient way to just get that information transfer. And I think it's unfortunate that all this valuable information you have to basically get through calls, and maybe the incremental class at Stanford or HBS teaches it, maybe accelerator or incubator like Founder Gym teaches it, but I feel like the average person doesn't have access to these things. I would love to see it democratized in a way that's just more accessible. So that's one of the things we're trying to do, but I still don't even think we're even scratching the surface on trying to relay that information to a broader audience.
Yeah, but I love that you both have brought that up, and that's what you're focusing on. And I know I'm the moderator, but this is what I care deeply about, and we're trying to do this at Emerson Collective, and you talk about KPOR, and I mean, I think more and more organizations are reaching more and more communities. And yeah, it's great that this conference is at Stanford, and yeah, the class at Harvard, but we really need to reach into all of these different communities. You know, Shamara, you mentioned being a hairdresser, and, you know, we just invested in a company called Handsome App, and these two fabulous Latinas and Austin who are doing just that. It's a giant community of hairdressers, and why can't they create a fabulous venture-backed business that, you know, helps hairdressers create amazing businesses, right? And have wealth creation in that way and give them great business skills. Like there are so many things we can be doing beyond even the limited things we're talking about right now.
Yeah, and I'll just say one little quick thing that I think when I've said it before to other small business owners, it's like, do you want to be a t-shirt vendor on Etsy, or do you want to be Etsy? Do you want to be an influencer on Instagram, or do you want to be Instagram? Do you want to be a recruiter on LinkedIn, or do you want to be LinkedIn, right? It's like helping people even imagine their ability to leverage technology, leverage external capital like venture capital, leverage talent to dream bigger. And I think, again, when you come from historically underrepresented, marginalized, disenfranchised communities, the dream has kind of been knocked out of you.
Right.
I can't tell you how many people come to Founder Gems, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, double Ivy League graduates coming to Founder Gem, right, to learn this stuff. But their confidence, their self-worth, it's like the world has knocked the wind out of their sails.
Okay.
And so much of the work we have to do is just rebuilding them and helping them remember who the hell they are and what is possible for them in this lifetime.
Yep. And I mean, even this conference today, right? We could have chosen all the names of people we all know, like, you know, the 4 people that we always talk about. And, you know, it's all about highlighting all the people doing this incredible work, right? There are 93 women that have raised more than $1 million that are Black in venture capital. Like, let's talk about all of them, right? And so that we know that it's happening in all these different areas. And if someone raised 500K, let's talk about them. If there are more people, like, we need to get these stories out, because as we all know, if you don't see it, you don't believe it. It just, we need to get the stories out. All right, another question. And Jared, you're going to kick us off on this one. Are there any organizations, venture firms, accelerators that started off more mainstream that you've now seen taking a stronger commitment to diversity? And do you have thoughts on what could be done to convince / encourage others about being more intentional with their investments and working with a more diverse set of founders?
Yeah, I'll be brief here. Techstars is one I highlighted. You know, we love them. They have cohorts all over the US. Now they're doing some international work, but essentially they take, you know, 10 to 12 founders or companies per cohort. They help them get to the next stage, raise their seed round, and continue to support them. I believe they just started out as helping entrepreneurs in different geographies, but now they have cohorts that are 50 or 70% ethnically diverse, and they've been walking the walk. So I really admire what they've done. They've been great pioneers, and I would love to see them continue to have success. In terms of what anyone can do, you know, we like to say hire or wire. So it's one thing to talk about diversity and to have a PR statement. It's another thing to actually put checks, transfer wealth into diverse hands, take risk. Like, yes, you can try to find info that says, oh, well, diverse teams are more likely to generate public returns or blah, blah, but like, it doesn't matter. We deserve the same chance to take risks, to fail as a white man does, right? And I think I would just want to see everybody have the opportunity. If you have a good idea, funding should be there, particularly in this environment that has a lot of capital flowing. So that's wiring, and the hiring is just actually getting more diverse talent into organizations, and not just the junior level, also at the senior level, also at the mid level, and even organizations that don't have a lot of turnover, intentionally finding ways to do this. Mandela's husband, Brian at Kapor, I think he put out a great article on it and basically said, hey, like, we need to see public announcements for job posts. How can someone apply to something they don't know exists? And that's something that we have done internally. We encourage every single firm that we talk to, hey, if you have a job opening, you got to publish it online, or you're intentionally being exclusive. So hiring or wiring are the two things I want to see everybody do.
Thank you for that. Shamara.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say Techstars too. We've had a great relationship with them, and they've been focused on this for a very long time. But you know, in terms of what I think can be done, I think the first is this access, right? This democratization of knowledge, and that starts from the founder side and to the LP side, right? And so if you are intentional, if you say, I'm committing to diversity, say as a VC, I would challenge you to publish your diversity stats publicly. We do that every quarter. And so I would say, you know, being super honest with it and saying, and it's not just like what number or what percentage of certain, you know, founders are XYZ. It's CEOs in the company, and it's dollars versus number of investments. So I believe I started my fund because this is first and foremost an investable opportunity that is being overlooked, right? How does 99% of the population look? It's not how tech and VC looks today. And so the way I think about it is having access to this VC funding being public. We have someone asked a question, how do you get in contact with us? Whether it's Mandela or Jared or Fern or somebody random on Twitter that wants to talk to us, you go through the same thing, you get the same questions. I know, Fern, we've talked about this bias in decision-making. We all have it. So reducing as much of the bias early on, and at the risk of not sounding robotic, asking very similar questions. Women get asked very different questions than men, right? There's a lot of studies on this. So removing that as much as possible throughout the process, creating transparency. We're gonna say no 95% of the time, but communicating where you are, why you're passing. Not everyone's gonna like it, but at the minimum saying this is why we can or cannot do it. And then being very intentional, transparent, and holding yourself accountable publicly. Lastly, I would say there are a lot of people, whether it's LPs or VCs, you know, committing to it. And I know even on the LP side, there's a lot of commitments, but then sometimes it's not from the core bucket, so you get a smaller check. Sometimes it's like you have to find 10 people that know somebody, and then you have to have 25 GPs, email them to say that you're the best, and then they consider you for an investment, right? It's the same thing. If you can't find me, I can't find you. So doing the same thing you're doing from the VC to the founder side, and that's, I guess that's it. So transparency, communication, and just decency, I guess, in understanding people's fundraising journey.
Can I add two things? Because you just inspired me, Samara. So yeah, we agree, like you can't manage what you don't measure. And I think more people putting out stats and being publicly accountable is great. The other thing that I've seen is like organizations will will frame things as objective criteria that are intentionally exclusionary. So to your point about GPs getting their funds off the ground, like, oh, well, we want you to have 15 years of VC experience and this track record. It's like, well, if no VCs were hiring diverse talent, how are there going to be a critical mass VCs that can do that? And some of those things aren't even necessarily predictive of their ability to start funds going forward. Or, oh, we only invest technical founders. Technical is usually coded language that doesn't actually mean anything that could actually drive business performance. So I really encourage everyone to really go behind the scenes, think about what factors actually drive performance. There's so many things that are like proxies that aren't actually predictive. And I just encourage people to really rethink their criteria whenever they're making significant decisions that could make or break people's careers.
Thank you. Mandela.
Sure, I'm just unmuting myself. I've been excited attendee. Listen to Jared and Samara take us to school. What can I add to those great comments? You know, examples that I've seen out there, I'll say not enough. Okay, I've been in this industry for 10 years, specifically in the space of helping underrepresented founders, and I'm still going to say not enough. I've never seen anything like I have in the last 365 days since Black Lives Matter movement was reignited, unfortunately, because of the George Floyd murder. And thank goodness for the guilty verdict yesterday. So that's something worth acknowledging. But I would say not enough still. And to Samara's point, it's sometimes done as a side thing. If it's not a core activity, you're kind of like the stepchild of the core business that doesn't really get the resources it needs to really make an impact. And to Jared's point, if it's not measured, it doesn't matter. And so I really like to start with what they said was creating goals. The other thing is, listen, we are all taking note. I can't tell you how many big statements and big numbers I've seen in headlines over the last year about what we're going to do and where we're going to do it. And then it's crickets. It's crickets. A year it's going to pass. I'm going to check in on you in 2022. Where are the receipts? What did you do? What were the outcomes? So I think part of this is really just checking your intentions. Are you doing this for PR? Or are you doing this to actually move the needle? And if you're doing it to move the needle, then my advice is to consult with people who know these groups more than you may know them. And I think it's part of it's like having the learner's mentality again. The other point I want to make is most VC firms are comprised of white men, specifically in the positions of power and who have the carry, who make the money at the end of the day. And one of the things I notice is that when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion and trying to figure out solutions, so many just throw their hands up in the air and like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, really? Are you the same ones who helped all of these companies that were crazy in the idea stage become the big behemoth unicorns that took over the world? Like, so why does your thinking shrink when it comes to DEI? Why does your growth mindset just go out the window? So my issue is really about you have the skills to solve the world's hardest problems. Apply them here. And then lastly, to all of us, like Jared, me, Samara, anyone out here in the trenches doing the work, trying to make a difference, it's our job to use our privilege and our power to lift as we climb. So my question that I ask myself, right, is how many people did I help today? Like really help, right? Like not for tweet clout, not for followers and a blue check mark, but how many other people have I actually helped climb in their journey? And I do think it's us who are already on the inside. We have a level of responsibility to not just ensure we walk through the door and we benefit, but that we leave the door open and we help other people go through.
I could just listen to the three of you all day. Okay, here's an audience question. Are there other sources of founder-friendly funds, CDFIs, government loans, nonprofits that you know about? And also, if you could just touch on, because we had another question, what are you looking for in a company that you choose to invest in? Not all companies are meant for venture investing. So, are there other sources of capital that can help people build these organizations that fulfill these dreams that they have? Jared, you want to kick us off?
I'll pass it over to Mandela or Samara.
All right.
Samara, you want to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll answer the second question first about other forms of capital that you have access to. Yes, there are other forms of capital that aren't traditional, that doesn't come from traditional venture capitalists. A venture capitalist is someone who is paid to deploy capital, right? And one thing to designate is an angel investor is a little bit different or significantly different because they're pulling from their own pot of money. It's a very different game, and there's levels of complication, like VCs have to put in some of their money, but most of the money is not their money that they're deploying. And so one thing is just to recognize that angel investors are an option for you because they don't necessarily have the same strict thesis that venture capitalists have in a narrow scope in which to invest. It's their money, so they can do whatever they want. So if they vibe with you, if they believe in you, if they like what you're doing, great. And there are many angel groups that we can share if that's helpful for people in the audience. The other thing is there's now something equity crowdfunding. So Republic is a platform, Start Engine is a platform, WeFunder is a platform, but I've seen increasingly more founders over the last several years use that as a way to diversify their cap table, open it up to more investors who are interested in, so that they don't have to kind of keep getting the same door shut in their face. There's grants, there's pitch competitions, there's all sorts of ways to finance your business. And I would just preface that if you decide to do VC route, really ask yourself, are you trying to go as big, as fast as possible and have an exit? I think this is one of the biggest things that are lost on founders who are transitioning their mind from small business to venture capital, is that the way the venture capitalists make money, there must be an exit. And an exit can come in the form of your business sells to a larger business, like when Instagram sold to Facebook, when WhatsApp sold to Facebook, when LinkedIn sold to Microsoft, or it can go public on the stock market, like Compass went public a couple of weeks ago. Coinbase went public, DoorDash last year, Airbnb. But there is an ending. It's not, it doesn't mean you have to leave your company, but there is a payout that needs to happen, that you're making an agreement with the investor. So just ask yourself that question as well.
Yeah, and just one other one that we all forget is revenue. You know, you can actually build a business the old-fashioned way and start selling your product. And you can also think about, you know, strategic partnerships. Last question. What is one piece of advice you'd give to founders from Hugs who are actively fundraising or thinking about fundraising in the near future? Who wants to kick it off? I'm not going to choose. Anyone raise your hand or just start talking?
So I can start. You know, sometimes you just need one person to be your lead investor, to be your first check, to believe in you. You're going to get no, 100 times a day, and people are going to question everything about you. You're going to get really bad advice, because there's bad advice out there too. But if you strongly believe that in your business, and that your business, you ask all yourself the questions on fundraising, is this a business that needs it and is an attractive business for VCs? Many times you just need that one person, and focus on that person, focus on getting them, and then to help catalyze around. So I often like to say that, because we as VCs experience the same thing, and it's very hard. So just keep trying and focus on that one person.
That's great. Two pieces of advice. I mean, one is just the question I want every founder to answer is why you. I think I said this when I was speaking to Founder Jim's cohort, but like, think about why you were uniquely positioned to run this business and take someone's money. It's an answer you should have. Like, we literally had to answer it when we were fundraising. Someone literally yelled at us in the library of a Harvard club and embarrassed us that day. But it was something that we'll never forget, because that's the answer you should have ready at all times. The other part of that is like really putting yourself in the other person's shoes that you're asking for money from. Like, everyone has different priorities. They're busy, they have families, they have different incentives. And like, some people take it personally, and there's so much bias and isms in the world, and like, it's not fair. But at the same time, like, no one owes you money. That, like, no one individual at least owes you money. And really think about what they want, what they're trying to achieve. Do they need 100x returns? Do they need to feel comfortable? Do they have to go back to a committee? The sooner you start thinking about that, the better off of a partner you'll be, and the better steward of capital you'll be. So those are two things I think every founder should think about. And once you have those mindset shifts, it really can help you get farther faster.
Yes. Underscore what Jared just said. Great. I love it. What would I contribute to advice? I think one thing that I didn't fully appreciate, because it wasn't my lived experience when I started as a first-time founder, but building Founder Gym and seeing the impact, being a part of a network and a community you wouldn't otherwise have access to, has been transformative for people. So what I would say is, it doesn't matter how good the DNA of your seed is, if you are not planted in the right soil, if you are not grown under the right conditions, you will not blossom, you will not bloom. There are a lot of like rocks just needing to be put in the right environments to transform and get the right pressure to become diamonds. And I just believe that one of the biggest things you have to ask yourself is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are there other people who are talking about playing this game, creating this wealth, right? Like stopping generational patterns and being the first in your family to leave more than just memories, right? Like you really have to audit your environment. And if you are not in the right environment to take your life to the next level, it's about getting in the right environment. And there really are no excuses with the invention of the internet and Zoom. And I mean, Founder Jim runs all on Zoom. This is where all the magic happens. Like it is possible to find your people who will stretch you. I'm so excited, I'm spitting, who will stretch you and pull you and grow you. But you have to take personal responsibility and plant yourself in a new environment. That is so, so critical. And then to Jared's point, nothing's owed to you. This is a financial transaction. And I think one of the things too that people have to recognize is the entitlement that they may have. And you have to understand that this is a business negotiation and it's about the value you can provide the investor, so much so that they entrust you with the capital that you're going to deploy it across 12 to 24 months to get to the next milestones in the next raise, right? So I think I recommend people read How to Win Friends and Influence People just to check your mindset on the way in which you are engaging with other people and creating value for them instead of just being a gimme, gimme, gimme kind of person.
Oh, that was those are such pearls of wisdom, you know, why you, why now, why this, and building on something Mandela said earlier today. Don't believe you can't do it. You know, you can do it. There are people out there. You're seeing 3 today, and each one of them, I am sure, are happy to share 10 others. And then those 10 can share 10 others. And so don't think of all the reasons you can't do it. Just know in your heart you can do it, and just get out there and do it. Thank you so much to the 3 of you for being a part of this closing panel. I am now really honored to introduce John Levin, Philip H. Knight Professor and Dean of Stanford Graduate School of Business. He earned a BA in English and a BS in Mathematics from Stanford University, a Master of Philosophy and Economics from Oxford, and a PhD in Economics from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Dean Levin was appointed as the 10th Dean of the school in September 2016. Welcome, Dean Levin.
Thanks, Fern, and terrific job moderating that last panel. And thank you to Jared and Shamara and also to Mandela. That was spectacular. Really a pleasure to hear your thoughts on the experiences you're having and what you're seeing out there. I'm just going to take a minute to thank everyone for participating in this conference. In particular, I want to thank the speakers and the team that put together today's event. And I'd like to thank the conference advisory board members who volunteered their time. And I'll just say that this group, we absolutely could not have done the conference without this group that put a lot of time and passion and energy into making this event happen. So thank you to everyone on the advisory board. I'll just close with just a very brief reflection before I send everyone out to the post-conference breakout sessions, to say that if you heard Brian Lowry this morning, he talked about some of the metrics that are out there around both venture capital financing and entrepreneurship. And we know that there are very wide disparities in both of those things. And we also know that the last year, the pandemic has been particularly bad for minority-owned businesses. In fact, we have research at Stanford from the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative that shows exactly that. But I think this event has been a really bright spot, a way to see that actually, in many ways, we are positioned to have a lot of improvement in entrepreneurship and diversity in entrepreneurship and in venture-backed entrepreneurship and in the venture capital industry. And just to mention a few things that I view as really encouraging in this front. One is just more awareness of the differences that are out there, the disparities that are out there, better data. And that has been a lot of organizations like the Kauffman Foundation and others have done a lot to document that and get that out into people's awareness. Second, as we heard just in that last panel, there are a lot of amazing efforts going on today to think about different ways of helping diverse entrepreneurs prepare to be more successful, of raising funds like the Harlem Capital Fund that you just heard about to support diverse entrepreneurs, and many efforts by the existing venture capital firms to expand their set of partners and to think more about what their portfolio looks like. And I think those are not a panacea, and they will not just transform things overnight, but those are all extremely positive steps. And it's something that at the GSB, we are spending a lot of time and effort to think about how to support. You've just got a sense of what it's like in Fern Mandelbaum's class, which has been particularly successful over the last couple of years in helping to support and inspire and encourage a more diverse set of entrepreneurs coming out of Stanford. So thank you to everyone who's participated in this conference. I hope that you're going to leave with a feeling of inspiration and having learned something today. I think the mantra of the conference was do one thing. So if you are suitably inspired, I hope you will take inspiration from that to go out and do something in the next day or week to push the cause of diverse entrepreneurship forward. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mandy Chang, the conference organizer, who's going to put everyone out into breakout groups so that we can get a chance to meet some of the people who are here and have a discussion.